spokes of the wheel. And he said, no matter how many likes you get on your Facebook page for your business, that's not your business. Your Etsy store is your business. And I have been doing that, thinking, oh, that's more likes. And associating that with success, but until I'm selling something, it's not the same. So that's a really good distinction for me.
I have a question for the panelists. Do you have any recommendations or suggestions about how artists can begin to price their work in a way that is competitive in the market and realistic for sale?
This is a question that comes up a lot, and of course, quite often when you take your work somewhere to try to get it into a gallery, they will help you with pricing. You only have to be really careful about that issue if you already have your work out in a lot of other places. The number one rule is the work should be priced one way everywhere. The world is too small. Nobody wants to find out that they paid $400 for something that is now $250, or something. But one of the best things to do is to talk to some people in the field to get an idea, and also just to look around you in your community and when you travel at how things are priced. People will pay more for your work if it's a little different or special in some way, but you have to be able to get that point across to them. And if you shoot too high, it's very bad to have to bring the price down once you've been out in the marketplace. So generally, galleries, even large galleries, will ask you, if you have priced too high, to come in a little lower until they get the ball rolling. That way they can say to people a little further down the line, we've already sold three of this person's works, and there is interest in it, and then the pricing can start to go up. But don't worry about that. Don't worry about it if someone says you really need to come down a notch and then start again.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it. Just look what's the market, how other people are pricing, people have similar work to what you do, and go that way. And then with your pricing, think how much time will you spend doing something, and what kind of materials are you using, and just keep all competitive, like what you said. Every time you show your art, keep it price based and keep documenting everything. Like you have to, as an artist this day, you have to do everything. So you have to. They were talking about before about the right brain people and the left right people. As an artist, you have to be a whole brain people person to be able to think about your studio time, your marketing time, and all that you need to do. So yeah, depends on your time and just look about the market.
Something that I can add to that is if you're selling things like jewelry or don't forget about pricing it so that you can wholesale it. Because through wholesale, your product's going to travel the farthest. I did with a Big Love Fest, and we had 130 vendors, or 130 to 150 vendors. And a lot of artists or artisans, I noticed, will price their things so that they can get paid, which is fine. They'll sell it at a craft fair or something. But then they come to sell it at my shop, and they can't sell it to me at the same price they sell it at the craft fair. Does that make sense? So for example, a t-shirt. Some people say, oh, I can screen print this t-shirt, I'll sell it for $20 at this craft fair, and then I'll make $10 because it costs me $10 to make it. Well, they can't sell it to me for $20 because that would mean I have to sell it for $40. And I'm at a store that can sell a t-shirt for $40. So you really have to think about what makes sense and keep consistent. Your wholesale prices and your retail prices. And you too can sell it at retail, but you have to think about wholesale first if you're going in that direction.
With pricing, I always find it interesting because people come to me and they want this like magic formula that everybody uses, so it's appropriate, and that's you can use that to price. And unfortunately, I'm in a popular bubble. There is no such thing. There's a standard. If you go to the foundations classes, they talk about how to define your unit of sale, and there's a standard formula about how to find out your cost of goods sold and all this kind of crazy talk. But basically, you have your labor that you need to cover. And that means how long it takes for you to make your piece, and how much hourly you want to pay yourself to make Just because somebody lists that cost in their catalog, that it costs, $8 for that tube of paint, doesn't mean if you're spending about between, $3,000 and $5,000 a year buying your supplies, that you can't call them up and say, hey, I'm an artist who resells my work, and I'm looking for a better wholesale price on these materials. Will you give me a 10%, 20% discount because I buy this much last year from you in supplies? Know that you can negotiate to get the best wholesale price for your materials as possible. I think that's really important because that's going to help obviously keep your cost of materials low. But I think one thing that artists always forget to write into their pricing formula is then they have to add profit. This is not paying yourself. You are running yourself like a little business, so you need to add in some profit to your price in order to be able to invest that back into your business. So I think people forget that. To me, that's kind of a real simple, if anybody wanted a simple formula, that's the closest and the most detail I like to get. And then the last thing is something that's really important when it comes to the labor part of what you make. Do you know that all of you cannot charge for core processes? You can't charge your audience for core process. So for example, if I'm a beginning glass blower and it takes me 2 hours and 45 minutes to make a base that might take a more established glass blower 45 minutes, I cannot charge my audience for my 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's my learning curve. That's a core process. I need to be better at how I make my work. I need to be more efficient at it, and I need to be better at making it so that it's cleaner. And so those are things as an artist you have to constantly strive for to achieve the best price that you can achieve. So keeping that in mind and knowing that is also important. I have so many artists that say, well, so-and-so gets $3,000 for the same size piece. And you cannot compare yourself to so-and-so artists. If you go to their website, you see that they're doing 12 shows a year and they're carried in 25 galleries, and you're just starting out. You're nobody. This person's worked really hard to get paid what they're at. So keeping that in mind, you just have to be really realistic on what you think as an artist you deserve and can get for this piece. And I'll tell you, there are a lot of artists out there that as they go through this process, I serve chocolate all the time when I do this workshop to help the pain go away a little bit. Because it's not easy, because most artists will come out saying, shoot, I need to figure out a better way to be more efficient in making what I make, to get the price that I can get in order to make it profit. And sometimes that's just the reality.
That I didn't hear you mention, maybe you did, and that's overhead expenses. Because some of you don't have many or don't think you have many, but of course you do pay studio rent, your fire and account, et cetera, et cetera. Don't forget to factor that in.
I bring that into a whole different type of equation, like how many units you have to sell a month. That's how I use it to cover your overhead and sales costs. So
the other thing is, if you look around at this particular show, it's a good example. We have work here priced from $300 to $7,000, depending on everything that these folks just said. So you can sell your work and play with the prices depending on all of the things that these folks have said and reach a lot of different people and a lot of different target audiences. So you want to remember that. The other thing is, if you're just starting out, you want to grow your collector's list, okay? I know many artists that are here in town that started off painting or making pottery, and they would sell the work for, just a little tiny bit of money, and then they'd have another show, and they'd invite the same people, and these people began to collect the work of these artists, so they would follow them and buy their work, and it didn't matter that the price went up. So you want to build your base, and then you can raise your prices, and they're still going to follow because they're going to want to collect your specific work. So remember to factor that in too.
Okay. One more question from you all, then we'll just go back to the audience. What's the worst marketing mistake somebody can make? The most expensive, common, this happens all the time, marketing mistake. You want to start?
Well, I'm thinking about the commissions for the galleries and that you go with the thing that you sell some, and then when they give you the check, it's like half of what you think, and like, because you don't pay attention to the contract, say that they're going to take 40% of everything. So you have to plan everything ahead and make sure what are the conditions of flexible your
So not reading the contract.
Yeah, contract everything, even if you don't like to read the fine print to it.
All right, this answer is a little more esoteric, but for me, I think if you just market, if you just tell people what you're doing, that's not enough. I think they want to know the story. I think you have to soul a little bit and tell them why you're doing this and what your passion is all about. Because that's when people really get interested in you as an individual and they start looking closer at your work.
I know one thing that's key is, one thing that can be a mistake is bad design. You can be the best artist in the world, but if your presentation portfolio is not organized, if your logos, your name, or however you present yourself, the first impression that somebody gets is not well designed, then it's going to go nowhere. And if that means you have to pay someone for design, or if that means, just because we're good artists doesn't mean we're good designers. And there's a very strong difference between the two things. So, I would say, if you invest in anything, invest in good design from the get-go, and because that's you, that presents yourself to the world.
And kind of, it's basically what Francis talking about. It's with your brand. It's who you are, how you're presenting yourself, your artwork, your cards. So for me, one of the biggest marketing mistakes is I find that artists haven't figured out what their identity is. Do you clean line contemporary work? And all your art cards, your business cards, your logo, everything should reflect that same aesthetic. Do you do more country, kind of focused type of work? Then everything should have a country bend. You want to make sure you consistently have the same message that comes from not only your work, but your appearance is key. And then also professionalism, I think, is really important. I'm often shocked and surprised at how quickly an artist particularly will deteriorate into non-professional behavior because they're unhappy with what they're hearing. And that was an impression that makes, and here's a great story real quick for you all. Even though I'm not a curator, I still curate independent shows all over the United States. And I'm very good friends with the major craft curators and major museums all over the United States. And we have what we call a PIA list. Does anybody know what PIA stands for? It's pain in the ass. Ours is 2 A's, pain in the ass artist list. I tell you, because if I deal with an artist that tends to be extra high maintenance and a big pain, I put it on that list and share it with all the other curators across the country because I want my friends to have to deal with what I dealt with. And so, keeping that in mind, you'd be surprised. Curators talk, decision makers in the art world talk, and it's a big world, but it's a small world at the same time. So your professionalism is very important always.
And take your gallery submissions seriously, folks. Don't send an email and say, I've attached a few photographs, tell me if you like my work. You want to send your artist statement, you want to send your bios, your resumes, large images so that they can be looked at, and you want to do it in a very professional, very organized way, because if I get something that's half-assed, I don't even look to get to the images, because I don't have time. So take your gallery submissions seriously.
Okay, thank you. Some questions from the audience. How many people here show in galleries regularly? About a quarter. How many people would like to show in galleries regularly? Okay. Some social media questions? Yes. Could you use the microphone, please? Come up, stand up.
I understand there is another online gallery that is becoming more popular than Etsy, and I wonder what it is and what the panel thinks of it.
Well, do you know of an online gallery other than Etsy?
There's a couple new online shop sites that are being developed. One of the bigger ones is called WantToot, WANTOOT. And then there is one that just launched, and I happen to remember it. I might text my husband while we go to someone else to get that name back. That is focusing on handmade objects only. So like Etsy has gotten away from all handmade only, and so this website is supposed to be more tightly curated and handmade objects kind of only. But I can't remember the name. Do you know the name of it?
Custom made?
Maybe it is custom made. Is that what you said? Custom made? Custom made.
But that's for projects. That's not
for projects, yeah.
Did that bring up any questions for anybody? Has anybody had any experience with online sales like that?
I just want to add one thing. I work with Mountain Beachworks, and we have a great online marketing class. And it's a class where you will learn where to search through all these different online platforms that can help you with your business. So you go to our website, Mountain Beachworks, we're going to have another class in online marketing soon. And that will be something. It's only 2 weeks. You meet once a week, and it will be a good opportunity to learn about those research. We are going to give you fun, so we'll be learning on things.
I have one quick question about, I want to eventually have my own, store online, but that's really overwhelming at this point, so I love that idea of using one of those. But at what point do you recommend actually having your own store separate from Etsy or separate from one of these online merchants that already exist?
Ironically, my husband, who's a full-time jewelry artist, we just did this for him because he's not on Etsy, but he's trying to figure out, does he go on Etsy to the online sales or have his own website? And he's determined that by the amount of sales that he does on his existing website by itself, with word of mouth because of the shows, that it hits a high enough number, and we figured that's about $25,000 a year in sales to make it really worth your effort and time and the cost to have a Shopify, which is the newest cart that everybody's using, that's easy. And so that is kind of that break-even point and then making kind of his sales. And this covers his overhead cost, his sales cost. So you have to remember it's not just like direct cost sales, it's a formula. So I would say probably if you sell more than $10,000 to $20,000 on Etsy, I would flip over to your own. Because I think you've got enough of a kind of a pool of people that follow you. And what you want to do is you want to have time where you've got some Etsy and some on your site, so you can start to throw people from Etsy over onto your own website.
Can you do both? Can you do it all? I mean, isn't that the way to market? Is just do as much as you can and then sort of sort it out where you're getting the most hits or sales and then decide the next step?
I think that you should have your own website, and that will be kind of like the starting point to Etsy, Facebook, everything. So you want everybody to go and see the more in just one place. So they will go and visit your website, and then they can find different websites that there are. And that's the way the thing about that is that you have a website, you have to dedicate at least 3 hours a week updating your website. Because people go back once a week and see the same pictures that you have 2 pictures of your old show in 2009. No, they're not going to go back. So you have to be blogging or dedicated some time. Make the website alive so people go back and see that you're doing things, and that will create your customers, and that will create some volume of customers to go to other places and to shop.
I would say that you have to have the same price on every website you sell. So that's just the key, and I'm sure people have said that before, but that's just so important that you have to charge the same. And if somebody at a gallery is selling your work through a gallery online or at a gallery, your prices online will be the same. You can't charge for less because it's not going through a gallery, you're not paying a gallery 50%. You have to meet the same retail price level that you're selling at the gallery selling for too.
Your question?
Undercut your gallery.
Can you say more about how to market to a wider geographic base, both domestic and international?
I feel like all I'm doing is talking. So go ahead. I mean, I like to talk, but I hate to monopolize. Okay, I can do that. So I'll talk about international because, the North Carolina Department of Commerce, which is of course been in the papers a lot lately for its being privatized, but in the meantime, they actually have an import-export office. It's the North Carolina Department of Commerce. They actually have directors. Like they have a director of furniture export, and he happens to be on my board. And I learned a lot from him. But they, like AD Tech, I just saw an advertisement for something called Export University. And it's a free class through their Small Business Center. I believe, is Wayne still here? Now, I'm pretty positive that it hasn't happened yet. I think when I got the most recent AV Tech catalog, I was reading through it and I was excited to see that. But it's geared for businesses that are more manufacturing businesses, but as an artist, if you go, you will learn a lot about how to get your work into an export kind of situation. And believe it or not, there's a huge demand right now in the middle class in India, Brazil, and China for handmade in America products. So that is something that there is definitely a market out there, and I say that the best way to do that is either to work through the North Carolina Department of Commerce, their export division, or go to AV Tech and take one of these export university classes. I think you'll learn a lot on that opportunity.
Yeah, I can suggest that international. Some of you were here this morning. I just mentioned it. We have an international development specialist who works with the SBTDC. She's based out of Charlotte, and we can provide quite a few resources for you. She presents at the AV Tech Export University program. But in the meantime, I can say that we can help with market research. I didn't know that these countries were interested in handmade products, so because you're not going to have access to the databases to do that market research, what happens is our specialists can sit down with you in a one-on-one, find out what you're producing, and let's say you wanted to export to China, which is a very difficult country to export to, but nevertheless, there are a lot of tools and programs that she can help you with to determine how to find that market. And there is a program you can pay for. It's called the Gold Key program. So if there was a huge market for you, either the North Carolina Department of Commerce or the United States Department of Commerce can help you to go to a trade show over there. They can help while you're there find qualified leads and set up appointments for you so you won't waste your time. And I highly recommend it. I think it costs $700, but believe me, if you had to do that on your own, it would cost $7,000. But if you're thinking of export, I highly recommend sitting in on that Export U program, and just call us and you can meet with our specialist, Mary Ramona.
That's good. Did know you had a specialist.
As far as finding venues and opportunities across the country, I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but there's a whole infrastructure. There's a state arts council for every state, and then it comes down to the county-based arts councils, like the Asheville Area Arts Council. And quite often on their websites, if you're targeting a particular place where you want your work to go, you should be thinking logistically about how you're going to get your goods to that market, or just to show. I always say to my clients, think about the paths that you're likely to travel anyway. If you go to family reunions, or whatever it is you do to certain parts of the country, you have a friend that lives out in who knows what state, between here and there, where are the possible markets for you so that you're not running willy-nilly all over and burning a lot of gas and time. So, go to those websites and look at what they have to offer. There's a lot of national publications and websites also, if you do search, looking for particular galleries and put in a keyword with your medium so that you can really target it. And then once you start to hone it, and as was mentioned earlier, what I always do is look at the galleries that you're thinking about targeting, look at who they carry, look at the caliber of the artists that they already represent or show, and ask yourself, would I fit in there? Is my work appropriate? Am I ready for that level? And then you can start to send to those organizations and forget the rest of them, because chances are if you immediately see it's not a good fit, they're just going to say, well, thank you.
Let's go back to that. You have to have a marketing plan. Like you said, you're going to fit in every single place that you want to be. So just think where you want to go, how you want to present, and just do it. And just once a month, twice a month, go to one place you want to have your art on.
I just want to give another 2 website resources. One focuses more on exhibition opportunities across the United States, and it's called callforentry.org. ENTRY.
I want to put in a suggestion too for one called artdeadline.com.
Oh, yeah.
I like it because you can sort by geographic, by medium, a lot of different ways to sort and get a list that really pertains to you.
Okay, any other questions about marketing or pricing? Pricing your work or marketing it?
I have one.
Yes, Kareem.
See if I can lean over here. So,
No, you have to come around.
okay. I talk quiet anyway. I can't hear.
Kareem's one of our volunteers. She's actually a biologist and a plant pathologist. And a model.
So I've just kind of gotten started into selling, and at one of the places that I sell is at a 50% commission, and they do so much for me. They do a lot of marketing for me. Is that something I should expect from a gallery? I don't want to end up on the So, what can I expect from a gallery when I am paying a 50% commission?
You should expect communication. It's a two-way street. I find a lot of times artists get a little nervous in the gallery situation and they deliver their work and they're out the door. But, when you take something to a gallery, it's good to show somebody what you're bringing, go through the pieces, explain details so they are better equipped to sell what you brought to them. That's essential. If they don't know the story behind the work, then, it's pointless. And 50-50 is the standard across the country in galleries, retail galleries. Running a retail gallery is hugely expensive. They should also be promoting your work. So you should be on their website. That doesn't always happen instantaneously. You're not necessarily on the website today after you deliver your work, but ask them what the timeline is. They should be trying to get you included in group exhibitions that they host, whatever they do routinely. Wherever they might have satellite places, some galleries put your work out into other locations for higher visibility. You have to ask, what else might I be involved in? Always ask the question.
Joey, you have a gallery?
Karen?
Yeah.
And just also know that all galleries are not equal, are the same, and some galleries will not, they don't deserve that 50%. They don't do their work. If you think about it, they're a business, and so if they do marketing and they reach out to their clientele and they try to cultivate sales, they're going to make a living, and then of course they're going to sell your work, so obviously it helps you all make a living, so that's a kind of ideal gallery. But there are galleries out there that really don't do that. And so, again, doing your research, asking other artists who are carried in those galleries for a recommendation, and there's nothing wrong with asking the gallery itself before you're carried in there to provide 3 references of other artists. Any reputable gallery should be willing to provide 3 references. Ideally, they're not going to tell you the artists that they've had bad dealing with, they're only going to be good artists, but at the same time, it's nice that they give that.
The only thing I have to say around that, as far as doing your own marketing, is think outside the box. So if there's ways that, let's say you have an art opening. If you think about a nonprofit that you can partner with, and you say, okay, at the opening, maybe you talk to the gallery, 10% of every sale is going to go to Brother Wolf. Then you've got Brother Wolf excited to get people to get over to the gallery and put you in their newsletter. So, and if you've got Mountain Express wanting to cover it in the conscious parties or whatever. So, figure out guerrilla marketing 3 ways to get into the press and write that press release. So whether or not 2 press releases are better than 1. So whether or not the gallery does it for you.
Jen, you have a question? Come up.
Can you hear me?
No.
Can't hear me. Now
Fine.
You literally have to
eat the mic. Okay. So I'm getting into this. I'm mostly an arts administrator, but I have some talents, and I like to use it to de-stress and make money if I can. And I've gone to a lot of the regional and local galleries, and this area is very much about supply and demand. There's a lot of creative folk here, so there's a lot of supply, and there is some demand. But when I've approached a lot of the galleries or show spaces such as restaurants and shops and such, they do all want to take their cut, which is fine. They have rent to pay and I'm using their wall space. But they don't necessarily do a lot of the promotions. They don't host anything. It's oh, maybe we'll put out some coffee and you can have some friends come over and clap their hands for you kind of thing. So the one rule that I've heard today is that you should set the same price across the board. And I'm a little nervous about doing that for myself because I can't afford to sell in these galleries that don't provide much in return, except for maybe some exposure where there's already so many talented, creative people here, which is great. But it's just difficult for me to take my cut after, pay my time, I pay my supplies. Okay, now here's my profit, so I've got some to reinvest. Now I have to add another 50 to 100% to that to sell in a gallery to actually make back what I need. And now I'm selling a product for what I think would be an enormous amount of money if I went and saw it somewhere. So I have taken the route through the past year or so of not really dealing with places that take commissions and trying to sell it at a lower base so that it'll actually move and I can keep making new products. Why does it have to be set the same across the board? Because I feel like that makes it a really hard jump for me to ever approach a real reputable gallery that I would want to work with. Because then I have to jump it all the way up on my Etsy site and everything else. So if you guys could help me understand that a little, I would really appreciate it. Thanks.
Well, I'm one of the ones who said it has to be the same across the board. And the reason why you have to do that, Jen, is that it really, with galleries, if they want to carry your work and they realize that you're going to undersell them by pricing your stuff cheaper on Etsy, and so somebody can go and discover your work at their gallery, then they can look you up on your website, and then you send them to your Etsy site that's selling it for half the price that the gallery is. I'll tell you quickly, you'll get on that PIA list, and you'll never be carried by any galleries. Because it just is about standards and fairness. And so, yes, it's hard when you have to price your work so that somebody else takes a 50% cut. But honestly, if you are making work that then when you use a formula for pricing it, that you can actually get back what you think you can get back, and you end up realizing that the price is way too high, you have to do a couple things. Reduce costs of materials. You have to reduce the cost of labor. In other words, what did I talk about earlier? You have to be better at your process, or you have to start all over and create a new product. Because there is a certain market value for products that that then be bought. And then there's a point where all people, all artists, all production of some kind of piece or some kind of artwork can be outpriced from what the general public will ever even invest in. So if you get in that place, and those are the kind of things that I always say, you need to go back and look at kind of those 3 areas to help kind of do that. But the pricing the same has everything to do with the fact that you want to be able to have an opportunity to deal with those high-end galleries, and I think when Jenny was asking that, she said, I want to eventually get there. You'll never get there if you charge too many different prices across the board. They just won't even look at you.
One thing that I wanted to add was that, you have a sense from what you see around you and you travel the level of quality of whatever medium you're working at. And if you know in your heart that just because you're a newbie, you're still doing good work and you can put it up against somebody else's who's already in the gallery, well then you shouldn't have any trouble getting retail. And if you are pricing your stuff lower, you're only hurting yourself. It takes some courage to get your prices up there, but you can validate that. You can explain to people, a little bit more about your process and give them the information. And you can continue to sell on your own or sell through venues that don't have a real high commission. That's up to you, but the quality really, those that can meet the bar, that really are ready. Not everybody wants to be in a gallery. It takes a lot of work in that regard as well, but you really deserve to be paid a fair amount instead of taking a reduced rate for your work.
Okay, I think this is our last question.
So it better be a good one.
Oh my.
Okay. If you're going to sell stuff at my gallery, then I'm the honor system. If you sell anything anywhere else, you're going to be giving me some commission. And now you're telling me also that you're selling stuff all over the place. Now, how are you doing that without? So I'm getting the wrong information, I'm hoping.
It all goes to the agreement that you have with your venue, whether it's a small shop. I mean, some people do really well selling fine art in a small shop. I have no qualms with that, whatever works for you. But whatever, wherever, get it in writing. What is the commission split? So you're real clear on that. And what is the geographic turf for that venue? Okay, that's got to be in writing so that you don't step on the toes of the person that's offering you an opportunity to sell your work at their business. But beyond that, you can do what you want. You know, you don't want to change the pricing. You still want to keep it in retail. But if you're selling privately, a lot of people say, well, you know, that person used to be my next door neighbor and blah, blah, blah. You know, you can give them a discount if you're selling it privately outside of your geographic. But don't step on the toes of the organization that's helping you.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's have a round of applause.